Do we want to turn down the lights a little bit? Thank you, Patty. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. We're all enjoying a little cooler weather. Whoever sent up those prayers, thank you.
So Patrick, Noelle, did you bring our therapy dog for tonight?
That therapy dog's right there, yeah. Yeah, therapy dog shared Popeyes with us a little while ago.
This is Fiona, my dad's only grandchild.
Yeah, I have 4 children. Noelle and her twin sister, 39, a son that's 40, and a son that's 41. Nobody's married. Welcome, everybody. So everybody knows where the restrooms are, and at about 7:40, we'll be taking about a 10-minute break. And I want to welcome everybody. And as you know, we sit in a circle, and we call it a wisdom circle. And that's because we're all very wise people. See if I can turn on the... Okay, that's a good start. And what we've been doing here for the last 4 weeks, and today's week 5, is going through different aspects of From Aging to Saging. And this is based on the book Awakening the Sage Within, which is based on the book From Aging to Saging, A Revolutionary Approach to Growing Older, and I like to add, and Wiser. And we like to sit in a circle because we're sharing our wisdom, the wisdom that we've gained over the last 4 weeks, the wisdom that we gained tonight by sharing in our reflective exercises, and we're creating energy. And I think, I know I can feel it in the room. I can definitely feel it. We also create sacred space, and that's important because we are digging deep, and we are sharing some of our more sometimes hard things for us to discuss that we're digging up. And we like to start with our 4 agreements, and if somebody could read the 4 agreements, it should be on the, I know there's a blank page, the top page, then I think there's a blank page, then the 4 agreements. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to do the chime. All right, now we can do the 4 agreements.
Saging agreements. Is this on? Am I on? Yeah. Saging agreements. We honor the confidentiality of what we share here. We listen with curiosity and compassion and without judgment. When we speak with intention and brevity. We are each responsible for the energy we bring to the group.
Thank you. And each week we review a little bit about saging and elderhood. And this week, on page 3, the essence of saging. And if we could just start anywhere and then just kind of go around the room, each person hitting one of the numbers on essence of saging.
Nourishing ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and
acquiring the skills for working on the inside and
giving real hearing to our inner voices and
This one. Engaging in life review and life repair.
Synthesizing wisdom from long life experience and
dealing with life completion and coming to terms with one's mortality. And
transmitting a legacy to future generations and
doing this nobly in connection with our inner actualized self.
Thank you. And you'll notice that in general, this essence of saging kind of follows the outline of our different workshops in Awakening the Sage within. And there's a reason for that. We like to start out, as you recall, from week 1 when we expanded elder consciousness, then we did life review, then we did forgiveness. Last week we did embracing our mortality. And like we do each week, we like to look back at what we did the week before and share with the group some of the wisdom that we harvested from reflecting during the week on last week's embracing our mortality. So let's take about 3 or 4 minutes, and this is on page 4, Harvesting Wisdom. As you have reflected on your own mortality this past week, recall one person whose last months, days, and ultimate passing you most nearly reflects how you envision your own last days and your ultimate passing, and why. So one person that you feel did it the way that you'd like to do it. So let's take about 3 minutes to write, and then we'll share. Everybody has a pen and workbook and everything? And I know for some people, we lose people unexpectedly, but we can still look at what their last months and days were leading up to that. And for some of us, our role model may be somebody who had a long, extended period of illness. So I know this could be hard for some people, but I think it really helps us dig deep into ourselves and see how this process can work for us. So about another minute. 20 more seconds. I hope that gave you enough time. If it didn't, does anybody want to take a little more time? Okay. Who would like to start? Thank you.
Rosie, and then you.
I would, excuse me, I would like to tell you about my sister Carol. My sister Carol was my big sister, lovely, beautiful, amazing. And she had had a wonderful day with her family. She said, "I'm tired. I want to go to bed." And she told everybody how much she loved them. And she went into her room. She didn't wake up. And when my nephew went in to wake her up the next morning, she had a beautiful, beautiful smile. That's how I want to do it.
Thank you.
Monterey. And he said that my father-in-law, Bob, had made his transition. And I thought, how wonderful that he could do that by himself. And I was very proud of him. The town of Seaside had made him quite a wonderful man, and he was very generous. And I thought, I hope that I don't chicken out on my transition. I hope I keep going.
Thank you.
So, Patty, did you want to go?
Go ahead.
So I chose someone other than my sister for a good reason. So when I was in I was a clinical chaplain at Kaiser Morris, and it was during the pandemic, so we're all wearing masks and keeping distance. And a woman wanted to say goodbye to her father, and she needed support. She was in the room with him already. She could have been left alone. We asked her if she wanted privacy, and she said, "No, I need a chaplain to support me." And so I asked permission to put my arm around her because it was during COVID. And she did a beautiful, just very heartfelt eulogy telling him what she was going to miss about him, what kind of father he was, why others were not there, and that it was okay. And most of all, what I liked is how she said, "It's okay to go, Dad. It's all right. I mean, I'm here, and I'm supporting you, and we love you, and the others aren't here, and you can let go. It's okay."
Thank you.
Well, my husband's best friend, Eric, lived in Reno, and he had come down for the weekend, and they played a couple of rounds of great golf, and they went to a fabulous 49er playoff game that we won. It was just one of those just awesome games. And he had just had, his daughter had twins. They were a few months old. So he went back home, and they had a family meal, and with their daughter, the grandkids, and all that. And he ended up having a brain aneurysm and going with a smile on his face. So that's how I would like to go. I love that, even though it was, sad for those left behind. But it was, he lived it up right until the very end.
Nice.
Actually, I've not had a positive experience with death in my closest family. My first memory of someone who was hugely important to me was the death of my mother. I was pregnant with my first child. She died alone in a hospital. That made me swear to myself I will never go to a hospital if I'm seriously ill I want to die at home. The other time, a very close friend of mine in New Zealand, because that's where I'm from originally, was dying, and I begged her to let me come and say goodbye to her. I don't think she could handle it, and she kept putting me off, you know, in a few weeks. And eventually, she was dying actively. She had cancer, it had gone to her brain. And her daughter, whom I had been in contact with, FaceTimed me. And I was able to tell her how I loved her and appreciated her friendship and how much she meant to me. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to say goodbye to her, which was wonderful, because that was frustrating. I want to be able to say goodbye to my family and friends. That's what I hope for.
Thank you. Yes.
I have something similar. My sister was diagnosed with cancer, and she wouldn't let me come. She would only call me once in a while. And then the last week of her life, my brother went up to see her, and then I came up. I was the last of the family to come up. And, you know, I was with her. I was with her last night, and then the next morning she made her transition with her husband in the room, and I think that's the way they both wanted it. But what it taught me was I realized that I kind of resented not being able to go spend some time with her or talk with her more. And then I realized after working through that is that, you know what, I'd do the same thing. If I were diagnosed with something, I'd just go off by myself and take care of it. But she taught me that other people want to be involved. Other people need to have that contact. So my idea is to have my 92nd birthday and just go upstairs and fall asleep and not come back. That's my plan. But I think so it's more that just what she taught me is that even though my preference would be just go off by myself, it's not fair to other people. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. A couple of takeaways there, besides having 49er tickets always available. Advanced directives. So hopefully everybody has their advanced directive that explains exactly what we want done at the very end. And, you know, at our age, we've probably all experienced more than one loved one or friend passing, and it's different. But I think if we put it into our consciousness what we hope for, that's much more likely to happen. And I say a little affirmation every day. I'm living 92 years in good physical and mental health and dying quickly and peacefully, surrounded by family and friends. Doesn't hurt, right? So this week, we're talking about leaving a legacy. And this can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. But we're not going to be talking so much today about, you know, having a building with our name on it or a football field with our name on it or something like that. It's going to be much more personal in terms of what we're going to be looking at tonight, although it can mean for some people that have great wealth that they would like to do something like that. So as we usually do, we start our workshop with a poem, and this poem is called The Echo. And we can have one person read it, or we can have somebody start and pass. Who would like to start reading the poem, The Echo? Thanks, Rick.
The echo of a life well lived, reverberating through time, like a symphony of significance. It's the imprint left on hearts and minds, the ripple effect of kindness and courage, that transcends generations. Whether it's a towering monument or a simple act of kindness, it's the mark we leave on the world, a testament to our journey and the lives we've touched along the way. Author unknown. And poems were meant to be read twice, so I'll read it again.
All right.
The echo of a life well lived, reverberating through time, like a symphony of significance, it's the imprint left on hearts and minds, the ripple effect of kindness and courage that transcends generations. Whether it's a towering monument or a simple act of kindness, it's the mark we leave on the world, a testament to our journey and the lives we've touched along the way.
Amen. Thanks, Rick. So page 6, and 6, 7, 8, and then we skipped from 8. Somehow the pages got mixed up. We go from page 8 to page 10, I believe it is, to complete the full reading. But this really gives us the background of what we're going to be talking about tonight in our reflective exercises. So where you see the little line breaks, if someone will just read to that line break, then somebody else pick it up to that line break, and then somebody else pick it up from there. And remember, at the bottom of page 8, we're going to then go to page 10.
Leaving a legacy. We all create a legacy, consciously or not, and these legacies are a mixture of positive and negative elements. The word legacy can be defined in various ways. Perhaps most simply, legacy is how we will be remembered, the mark we make on the world, for better or worse.
A more complete and nuanced definition of legacy focuses on the impact we have made on others as we have touched their lives, either directly or indirectly.
Working to gain conscious awareness of the legacy you have created up until this point in your life is key, dynamic, and conscious eldering. And cultivating this awareness, it is an important element of the life review work.
That actually continues.
Such awareness, I had to flip the page. Such awareness helps you to recognize attitudes and behaviors that are not supported by your well-being or that of others. It enables you to cast off those attitudes and behaviors as you move into elderhood. It also provides with the opportunity to work to repair relationships, make necessary amends, and take other steps to transform any negative elements of your legacy.
Of equal importance, this awareness helps you identify the positive life-supporting qualities you can use as the foundation for a new life chapter and the legacy you can create in this emerging chapter.
Cultivating awareness of legacy is important in growing the story of who you have been, with your flaws and strengths, into an empowering one that will help bring out the best in you as you grow into elderhood.
One of our huge flaws in the current way of aging is viewed in our society that a legacy building is seen as being pretty much over by the time we reach retirement age.
The disempowering view holds that whatever legacy will define our lives has been created in our productive years. with this year, oh, hold on, with the years after that being an opportunity to rest on our laurels if we see our legacy as having been positive.
However, those who seek a conscious elderhood are not willing to allow the 20 or 30 years of life after retirement to be seen as merely the postscript of conscious living, conscious aging to a legacy created in earlier chapters.
So skip to page, for the rest of the reading, page 10? 10, yeah.
Conscious elderhood sees the elder years as a time when legacy can come to true fruition, when the positive general qualities developed over decades can reach their fullest expression, and when a treasure trove of life experience can be converted into the wisdom that only the passage of many years combined with inner awareness can bring.
As a conservative elder, you have the opportunity to build on the legacy you have created so far and a chance to create an even further and more life supporting legacy to hand down to the generations that will come, that will follow.
Thank you. So, the takeaway is we've got more legacy that we can generate for however we want to do it. We have accomplished a lot so far, but there's as much more to be done in terms of our legacy as we personally want to do. And all of this work is about being reflective and being conscious and being aware and having intention. So we can, every day, which talks about the lives we touched, a friendly word that can change a person's life for many years. They may not even, some of us, I'm sure, remember a teacher that said something to us that emboldened us and changed our lives, changed the path we were on. So that's the whole idea here, is that we now, as elders doing our saging work, we have a lot more legacy that we can leave to those that we love. So as we move along here, I want to keep track of time because, all right. So reflective question number 1, and we'll spend about 5 minutes writing, or 4 minutes writing this, and 6 or 7 or 8 minutes sharing. Other than some famous person, who in your life do you admire in terms of leaving a legacy, and why? So who has been your role model in terms of leaving a legacy, and why? And we'll write for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll share until the break. Another minute. About 20 seconds. All right. And by the way, I realized that I had a grammar mistake there. Sister Mary Philomena, whatever her name was, should say whom, I think, instead of who. Sorry about that. So who would like to share somebody that was a role model for them in terms of legacy?
The number one person besides my mother was my Aunt Emmy. She was postmaster in Mendocino County, and she had no children. She was a home ec teacher. My Uncle Tom worked for the Maillards, which are a very wealthy family in San Francisco. She never let me or my sisters think of anything except how unique and great we were. She got very sick and put her in the hospital, but she never gave up. She always, how are you girls doing? What are you up to? I have a daughter, and I hope someday she could be telling her children the same thing about me.
Hey, thank you.
I would like to write to Althea McGill. Oh,
Closer, that's it.
okay.
You can do this, Dave.
Who I'd like to write is Althea McGill. She was a teacher in 1944 during the war, and she had me write a letter to her husband who was overseas in battle. And after the war, he came back, and I went to see her, and I met her husband, and it was something I'll never forget. And he talked about how he liked getting a letter from a kid all the time. Thank you.
I just recently lost a friend, neighbor of mine, Gail, and she had a lot of physical disabilities, but she would volunteer all the time at our clubhouse in the development I live. And I'd be sitting on the couch in my jammies, and here's Gail driving down the road, down to the clubhouse to sell tickets to the next event. Very difficult for her to get in and out of the car. She just inspired me. She'll really be missed. She's a wonderful being. Yeah, I'll miss her.
I don't remember this person's name. It's embarrassing. But in 2012, no, 2016, no, in 2013, I came to Spiritual Life Center, and I was asked to start a prayer group. Prayer groups have never flown at SLC, and I'm not sure why. I was doing it in the day, and one man came. He was a psychiatrist. He worked at Kaiser. He wore pajama bottoms, had a big earring in his ear, and I think his name was Richard, but I don't remember. But he was almost the only person who came every week. And so we would sit down and we would, the Unity has the little prayer service that you do. But we got to where we would have this discussion about something spiritual, and then I would say, well, we probably should pray. And one day we were talking about this, and I said, we're not praying. He said, this is spiritual exploration, Deborah. And so we had this wonderful conversation. He went off to Hawaii or something, and when he came back, he just died. I don't know if he died in a car accident or if he died while he was driving. But the thing is that those moments with him, sitting in that room, doing spiritual exploration is what led me to start my discussion group that I have on Tuesday mornings, which is now a private group, but I call it a spiritual exploration. And I get so much out of it, but there have been probably 30 people over the last years who have come through that group. And his legacy is to those people. It's to me, but it's also something that is a living, breathing part of SLC to this day. And I could gotta go find his name. But he was just this amazing person, and he just, he was apparently extremely happy when he left the planet. He was in a good place, but much of what I do here, he gave me the foundation for it.
Maureen?
No, go ahead.
Oh, all right.
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to think about my grandfather, Grandpa Finch. He was flipping houses before houses flipping was a thing. He would buy a house and fix it up and sell it and move on to the next house. But what's more remarkable is that he was diabetic, had a leg amputated. I don't know how old he was, but he was a grandpa, but he got a Mustang and had it outfitted so that he could drive the Mustang. And the legacy is never give up. Never give up. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'll say something about my sister. So because it was during COVID when she passed, I officiated a virtual celebration of her life, and I may have mentioned it in this group or another. We've had quite a few different circles in the last couple of months. It's very interesting. One of the paragraphs that I wrote about her was that she was an exponential influencer. And what that means, I mean, anyone here could figure that out, is it wasn't a lot of likes on Facebook or Instagram or any of that kind of stuff. It was the profession that she was in, or that all of us are in, that we influence those who are close to us, whether we're working on teams, whether we're a leader, whatever it is that we are doing, whether we're a healer, whether we're a parent, whether we are facilitating workshops, we influence people there, and in turn, they influence other people. And they may not say, well, I learned this from Maureen. I mean, it may not be like that. It doesn't have to be. It could just be, I learned this, I'm going to pay it forward, I'm going to use it, I'm going to support someone else. That's what an exponential influencer is.
Great.
Thank you, everybody. This was easy for me. My maternal grandmother, Sarah Olivia Hull Neff, was my mentor. She had one daughter, my mother, and one grandson, me. And she taught school for 50 years. She was skilled at developing relationships with all the people who surrounded her, and she became a mentor from day one. I never did not know her, so I was a baby. She taught me about saving and finance. She taught me that worry is just a whirl of ineffectual thought. She taught me that we can always take time to bury and celebrate the deceased, and so much more. I think of her every day. She lived to be 91. She was born in 1900, so she experienced a lot of history. And so one time I was a kid and I just asked her, I said, well, Grandma, how do you teach anybody anything? And she said, well, my job is to create an environment in which they can learn.
My mom passed away about 3 years ago, and it's, surprisingly to me, it's still pretty raw, but it's getting more easy to speak about it. My mom, when she left, she made peace with herself and with others. She had several different types of cancers the last 25 years of her life. And each time we thought she had conquered them, but something else came up and something else came up. But I was able to watch her process and observe and really take it in and just watch how graceful she was, that you could, you have the stages of denial and fear and all these things. And then at each stage, I watched her just like, okay, all right, we can do this. And then another thing would come up with her health, and okay, we can do this. Just watched her process of eventually coming to the end of her life. But she was able to pass away at home. Her children we were all able to take shifts, take turns watching over her, helping her through. And she never did give up. She always had hope. Just the way she looked at us sometimes, and also what she would say, she would go, pray for me, right? Pray for me. And just the way she looked, it's like she was still hanging on for hope, like she was, believing that she's still going to get through this last one. And but I remember the last time that she was able to get up and walk, she was using a walker, and my sister and I were on either side of her, and she was doing her best to walk, but I'll never forget, I have a picture in my mind. My sister was getting frustrated with her. Come on, Mom, just walk. You can do it. We're almost there. And my mom stopped, and she took in a deep breath and looked up to the sky. And she let it out, and she finished her walk back to the house, and that was the last time she was able to, get outside. And so there at the end, when she was in her bed, we went through hospice and all that. She looked at one of the hospice nurses one day, and she goes, so when am I going to be able to walk again? And she knew she wasn't, but it was just that spirit within her. And we all got silent. We didn't know exactly what to say. And then she took that breath again, and she just, it's sort of like she accepted what was coming. And so it was just very, for me, it was very loving and graceful for me to be allowed to see that to happen. And near the very end, she looked at me and my sister, and she said, I didn't know it would take so long to die. She was really trying, like, I'm doing everything I know to do. I'm following orders from the nurses, and I'm still here. And then she passed away one early morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got the phone call. But she left a lot. She was very kind and loving and generous. She loved music. I'm just thankful that she was able to pass it home and live in peace, leave in peace.
Thank you. I don't want to shortchange anybody that wants to share, but okay. So it doesn't take much to leave a huge impact. Just sharing our values with somebody that get passed down generation to generation to generation. And your name might not be attached to that, but your great-great-great-great-grandchildren may be living a life someday that you've influenced. So it doesn't necessarily mean that your name has to be attached to something. Anyway, let's take, for the sake of time, let's do a break that's only about 7 minutes. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. What's that, honey? Okay.
Patrick, this dog kind of looks like you.
What's that? Testing. So you can see that some small thing that we do now can carry on for generations and generations and generations. So we've got lots of time left to do the kind of things. And the next exercise we're going to do, I think, is really powerful, and I hope that you'll carry on with it after the class is over. And this is writing legacy letters, and sometimes it's called ethical letters, but I like legacy letters better. And I would like to just quickly have somebody quickly read through all the copy on that legacy letter. It's on 2 pages, just so we kind of get a really good idea what it's all about. So somebody who's really likes to read and can read fairly fast, would they read that legacy letter? Okay.
Excuse me. Okay, so this is suggested method. This may be used as a journaling exercise. Find a quiet place and be prepared with your pen, pencil, and journal. Make a list of people to whom you wish to write ethical letters. Consider what essential ideas you would like to transmit to each. Picture the reader of your letter. Find the voice you want to use. How do you want to speak to this person? To their mind, what do you want to say? To their heart, what do you want to say? To their soul, what do you want to say? You might ask yourself some questions in composing your letters. By what definition of morality have I lived? What has been the most important in my life? What of my life would I like to see endure?
So the next exercise, and we'll take 4 or 5 minutes on this, is make a list of 1 or 2 people to whom you would like to write a legacy letter and why. Page 13, sorry. So make a list of 1 or 2 people. If you want to make it 3, that's okay. To whom you'd like to write a legacy letter and why. It will take about 4 minutes. That's page 13. About one more minute. About 30 seconds. And when you do legacy letters, this is just an example. There's lots of other things that you can do that can stimulate your thinking in terms of what you might want to write to somebody. And I've been starting to do this, and I have a lot of cousins. I'm an only child, but my cousins all consider me like a brother. So I have a lot of cousins that I'm writing to, and childhood friends that I've known all my life, and fraternity brothers and things like that. So it's not just children and grandchildren. So who would like to start? Yes.
This was really easy for me because I have 2 children and they popped into my head. I'm an older adult with no living relatives, in my parents' generation. However, I still live my life trying to please them, even though they're not around. I find some decisions I make, actions I take, I realize I'm still trying to get their attention and love. So I would like to write legacy letters to my children to tell them or remind them how much they're loved, and that I see them, and that I've always seen them, and I acknowledge them, and honor them, and respect them, and ask their forgiveness for something I may be aware of or not. Those are those silent opportunities for communication that I've not taken. Of course my kids know I love them, but but that's my general thought. I don't want them spending their life trying to please me the way I spent my adult life trying to please my parents who are long gone. So I would like to have some kind of peace and closure in a legacy letter to my children so that they understand how much I love and honor them for the wonderful people that they are.
Thank you. Do we have somebody?
Thank you. A person that I would leave a legacy letter to is my best friend when I was in high school at Willows. Valerie was a year ahead of me. We became very good friends, and we used to do things that I still won't tell my parents we did. But there was a lot of loyalty and a lot of, when things got bad for Valerie, I was there, and when I would do something or something would happen, I would go to her because she was older than I was. But I'm looking down at what I wrote and how wonderful it was to feel free, to not assume the responsibility of being part of a group in high school. Valerie and I were both popular. We had a good time. We used to skip bookkeeping class in high school, and every boy had a rifle in the back up on the window of his pickup. So we used to go out and hunt squirrels at Elk Creek. And it wasn't the right thing to do. If my kids did it, I'd put them in a cage. but it was okay. That's who we were. And I think of Valerie, and I think I could write a letter, and she would know what I was talking about when I talked in codes to her. I have friends. I don't have anybody that I share my past with like Val.
Thank you. And just as an aside, we can write legacy letters to people who are no longer with us.
So I'm just going to, since I'm sitting next to Ronnie, I think I'll go. So I had actually about 6 different areas, and one of them is my spiritual community. So it's not a person per se, and then specifically Spiritual Life Center, and mainly because it just the last couple of decades or so, my spiritual growth, my understanding, what I learned, what I unlearned, and what I hope is the legacy for Spiritual Life Center. I also have my siblings on, of course. I'm the oldest and the big sister, but recent events, my brothers have acted as my big brothers. And also my ancestors, my neighbors, and very oddly, myself. And so it's more of my future self, because I mentioned before, I'm coming back, and I don't know whether it's going to be as AI or a bot or pure consciousness. I have no idea what the future brings, but it's just important to me to say, you know, Maureen, I care a lot about you, I love you, and carry on.
Thank you. And just another aside, we don't necessarily have to give these letters when we're still here. They can be something that people get after we pass. Just food for thought. All right.
I have 3 people, 3 groups I would write a legacy letter to. My children, because I had a life before you. My grandchildren, to get to know me a little bit better and to let you know you're fine the way you are. My husband, how I came to know and love you more, so much more.
Beautiful.
Well, I'll share something based
right.
on something Gage said, which is, I was telling somebody earlier, my mother-in-law, way a long time ago, 1979, she was in the hospital dying from cancer, and I was married to her son, the oldest of 5 boys, and they were trying to get a hold of the one brother that wasn't there, and I was in the room with her and my father-in-law, and we sat there for quite a while, about an hour or so, maybe longer, a couple hours, and it wasn't until she passed away that he put his arms around her and said, "I love you." And that made a real impact on me. I've always said I love you and been, you know, demonstrative in my feelings and affection. But that just made an impact on me. And I think we definitely need to tell people we love them and care about them while they're here. So anyway, that's not exactly what we're talking about here, but I wanted to share it.
Well, it is what we're talking about, really. Doesn't have to be a long, long letter that answers all the questions. It can just be, I just want you to know how much I love you.
I have an interesting story that's
All
on
right.
the same order.
All right.
My mother married my father in 1944, and she wrote a letter to him telling him how much she loved him, how wonderful he was, just on and on. It was a very nice letter, and she signed it Margaret F. Upton, which that was her name. And one day she showed it to me, and she said, "Put this away in your jewelry box." And I said, "Okay," you know, 16-year-old girl. I just stuck it away in my jewelry box. In 1996, my mother passed, and we went up. I was in Las Vegas. I drove to Sacramento, unpacked, did laundry, repacked, went to Redding, and before I went to Redding, I said, I better get that letter out of my jewelry box. It's been in my I got the jewelry box when I was 16.
it was tucked away. So I got that letter out, and I made some copies, but I took the original up to Reading. And we went down to visit my mom. It was her viewing. And I gave the letter to my dad. I said, "Have you ever seen this?" And he said, "No." And I gave it to him, and he said, "I want to put it in with her body. I want to keep the original. I want to put a copy in with her body." And I said, "I've got it." So we put that there, and my dad had never seen that letter until that day.
So you never know where that legacy letter may end up. Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about leaving a legacy letters. You just never know. You just never know. I've got time for one or two more. Well, the idea here is to really start your thinking about the kinds of things that we can do to leave a legacy, because we tend to think of leaving a legacy as, something big and bold and, Abraham Lincoln-ish. But we can have, like the butterfly wing concept, we can have a much bigger impact than we sometimes think. For me, I just think these legacy letters are awesome. There's other tools that we're going to talk about in a minute, but I just hope you'll give this particular tool some really good thought, because I know there are people in your life that will really treasure them. Yes, Patty?
Well, my son and daughter-in-law just came for a few days, and they just got married in July. He's known her for 2 years, and she and I are really close. And they actually came to church on Sunday, and they enjoyed the service. And when I got home that day, they left from here to go home to Pismo Beach, where they live. And so she went through the house and left sticky notes. I went to do laundry, and I opened the cupboard to get the laundry detergent, and she left, a loving sticky note about how much she loves and appreciates me. And so all over the house, I found about 6 or 7 of them, and to me, that's a legacy letter. That's telling me, well, and it's just been really nice, and I'm so blessed to have a great relationship, so.
Yeah, you've left a legacy for them, and they've returned the love that you've shared with them. Anybody else on this, or are we ready to go to the next? I have a hard time seeing, so, okay. So reflective question number 3, and as I said, what we try to do is create awareness of, expand our consciousness about these kinds of things, and create awareness, but also develop intentions. So this next question is, I didn't articulate this very well, but several of you may realize that your legacy is not yet complete. Well, none of our legacies are complete. So what actions would you like to take as part of your saging work for your legacy, and why? And we'll spend about 4 minutes writing and then sharing. So given what we've talked about, expanding, your thoughts on this, what would you really like to do? What would you like to take action on? About 30 more seconds. Who'd like to start? We're going to, maybe not this week, maybe not next week, but as we move along, there's some things that we'd like to do to help people remember us. Yes, Maureen.
So one of the things that I've been doing for a few years is I have a book and I've had different chapters and I drop things into the chapters. And it's writing that I've done before. It's mostly nonfiction. I need more fiction in my life, but my life is mostly nonfiction. And so for an example, dropping in something like a research paper I wrote that I loved. You know, that was just really important to me. And then I'll just use one example of, I wrote a journal article that was published in a journal called Careers in Caregiving. And this is part of my background in career development. And I wrote this it was really a tribute to my dad. And taking him, he still was teaching college into his 80s. And he had macular degeneration and he had Parkinson's and he still taught. And so my brother would take him to the college and I would pick him up because he wasn't driving. And it starts off just, you know, me sitting in the back of the room while he's giving a lecture and what I was feeling and what I was thinking watching my dad do this and how he influenced my life and my careers and my teaching. And again, it was called Careers in Caregiving, and that would be dropped into there. And different kinds of other kinds of writings that I've done, and even things I've saved from working in the entertainment industry where you worked on a computer. So, I mean, you worked on a typewriter. And Xeroxed copies of script reviews I did. I read scripts and books for projects. And I would drop one of those in. And it's very much what we used to teach students about a portfolio career, that you want to put in everything of who you are, and now it's electronic, and most of the students have electronic portfolios, and I love that.
What actions would you like to take as part of your saging work for your legacy and why? My family, I have 2 children, a boy and a girl, and they're in their late 50s, early 60s. And they're both very successful people. They've worked hard and have been rewarded for that. But I'd like to let them know how much I love them. They are so caught up in the actions that it takes to be successful as they are. And sometimes they live in Chico and we live in Sacramento, so we don't see each other. And one of the boys has 2 little girls. I'd like them to know the fun part of being a parent now that Cameron has 2 little girls. I want to take part of their saging work or their legacy. They wouldn't know what it was labeled if I were to label that. And I would like them, and I will save this work and go over it with them, because they too will find that their children are drifting off and getting their own lives. And I want them to have their own lives, but I want to be part of it.
Thank you.
I want to finish writing my book about the nature of reality and get it published by a publisher, or if I can't, then publish it myself. Then later in life, I'm going to create an invention so that people can communicate to their dead friends and relatives, mostly to help atheists, so they'll realize there is an afterlife, and others who are in grief from their family and friends who have passed.
Very nice. Anyone else?
Well, I have absolutely no desire to be published. And I've had people pushing me for years, publish, I have all these talks and all this stuff I've written. And so I think I need to find a way to do that, because the most important thing to me is for people to understand that spirituality is so important and so serious that we have to have a sense of humor about it, and we have to realize how funny all of this really is. That's the most important thing for me really to understand is just like, yeah, this is deadly serious, and it's absolutely hilarious at the same time. Because if we can't laugh, we can't get through this. So humor, somehow I've got to figure out how to get the humor out there.
All right. Well, you're doing a good job of it. We've got about just a few minutes left, and we've got a few other things to do, but I don't want to cut anybody off if somebody else wants to share what they are thinking about in terms of legacy. Okay. On page 15, there's just a few other tools that, and number one, a video legacy. I just did this, and there's lots of, I shouldn't say lots, but you can Google and you'll find people who do video legacies for you. Has anybody done a video legacy? So for me, it was about an hour long, and the gentleman that did it had a whole list of questions because he was a pro and he kind of knew what he wanted to generate from my thoughts. And then I'm giving him a bunch of photographs, old photographs of family, my first car, first girlfriend, that sort of thing. And so it'll probably only get watched once. After I'm gone, my kids will probably go, let's go look at that video that Dad made. But that's a thought. And then, of course, there's financial gifts, and there's Spiritual Life Center here. Be glad to have your legacy, have you remembered here. And then memoirs. I've done some work on writing your life story as part of some other workshops that I had done on healthy aging and things like that. It's hard to write a memoir, but if you're up to it, a lot of times that's more for yourself than for other members of your family. But everybody's got a family history, and there may be some important people in your family that would like to know more about your family. And finally, really important is mentoring. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit next week in sharing our gifts, because we are getting wiser, we're saging, we're becoming more aware, and we've got a lot of gifts to share with people. So we're going to be talking about that next week.
Remind you, we're not meeting next week.
I'm sorry, the 23rd. Yeah. So in closing, we have a poem that starts on page 16 called Legacy. So if somebody will just start, and we'll go around the room and do this before we have our closing prayer.
You go.
Legacy. What gift have I to leave behind for my children and theirs that will last for all time? What is it of me that they will always remember? Or will my memory soon fade as the last glowing ember? What have I accomplished? Are my goals satisfied?
Will anyone notice or care that I've died? Will there be any emptiness in anyone's heart? Or will they be glad that I'm no longer a part of their everyday lives, or perhaps just an obstacle in front of their eyes?
Okay, pray that the memories that I leave behind will be of a gentle soul, thoughtful and kind. For a soul is remembered with smiles and with tears for the burdens of others. One has eased through the years, a helpful hand when a friend is in need, or a stranger perhaps.
He is willing to feed, a sayer of good things, a teacher of truth, a godly example for the struggling youth.
To be a good husband, a father and son, is the goal I have strived for, and I pray I have won. For what else can man leave that is forever worthwhile?
Than to be long remembered with a tear and a smile.
Thank you all. And it is just really not about the big tower with our name on, or the football field with our name on it. I mean, that's nice if that happens, but it's really all about how we live our everyday lives that we're going to be remembered. And I'm really grateful for all of you that share so much and share what's in your heart, your mind. And I know everybody else benefits from that. It's we create a lot of energy, and we walk out of this room each week, I think, a little wiser. I think our awareness is expanded, and hopefully we'll continue to do this saging work as we go forward. And I'll blow out the candle, and then we'll have our prayer for protection.
I want to remind you, we will have the monks who I have been informed are not merely monks, they are masters. They are very high up in their spiritual development. They will be here starting Wednesday of next week. They will be here starting to build the mandala. And the community meal will be at 6:45 because they will be in here. They will be chanting from 6 to 6:30. After they've been working. And so we invite you to join us, and then we will reconvene the week after that to finish this series. And again, thank you, Patrick, so much.